The Cost of Goods Told podcast is made possible by the following sponsors. Criswell Culinary aims to create a new standard of unique, affordable hot sauces that satisfies the more developed cravings of today. Boerne brand Texas-style hot sauce is a boldly layered sauce with density and personality to proudly represent Texas. Go to boernebrand.com to find a retailer near you. That's Boerne, B-O-E-R-N-E, brand.com. 0 Point Organics grows and supplies microgreens for over 30 major restaurants in the Houston area. Consistently perfect quality in flavor and appearance, their microgreens will be the best you or your customers have ever had every single time. Go to pointorganics.com. Welcome to the Cost of Goods Told podcast. My name's Connor. I'm a chef and media producer. I am joined this week via Zoom with Darren Lafferty. Darren, man, been a little bit, man.
Well, I mean, everybody's going different directions. You got to pay the bills and do what you got to do and jab and weave and bob and move. And so I'm sorry I missed you the last couple of weeks, but I'm glad to be back.
Dude, it's good to see your face. 3 things that I want to mention just before we get started here. One, my wife had to take a phone call, so we're recording over Zoom. I'm recording in the house, so if my son Lachlan jumps on the podcast, I'm apologizing ahead of time, all right? I've got him set up. But if I do have to hop off, Darren, I'm going to ask you to carry the weight of this podcast.
I'll do it.
2, and this is just a personal note, seems like everybody and their mother is opening up a darn podcast or doing a podcast. Every celebrity that I know is freaking doing a podcast. So I'm starting a new hashtag support local podcasts. Okay. So you guys, thank you to our listeners who have listened to this podcast. But I can't compete with these celebrities, man. It's just heartbreaking every time I see a new celebrity like, yeah, I started a podcast. I'm like, great. That's what you need. More sponsors, more money. So
we were just trendsetting. Hey, we were trendsetting. Don't worry about it.
We're trying.
Yeah, you started it.
I'll take credit for that. And then 3, I want to send a huge shout out to Lance Aker of Aker Barbecue for actually setting up this podcast. So Chef Evelyn is our guest this week. Much and thanks to the persistence of Lance Aker. So
he is persistent, to say the least.
He's pimping you out, Jeff. He's pimping you out for sure.
I'm glad he made the introduction, though, Chef. You've been someone that we've wanted on this podcast. We're super happy to have you on this podcast. I just wish we could have done it in person under better circumstances. But thank you for taking the time. I know you've got your hands full with a ton of stuff. So
It's all good. It's all good. No, for sure. Thank you. No, thank you for having me.
Well, Chef, if you don't mind just giving everybody a little bit of background. I know you're a native Houstonian and then, took your talents elsewhere and around the world, but if you could give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, like you said, born and raised in Houston. I moved very young, right after high school. I went to the Culinary Institute of America in New York. Mm-hmm. I did culinary and I did a bachelor's in hospitality management. So I did almost 4 years at the CIA. And then I ended up staying in New York. I felt like really needed to learn as much as I could. Since I was already in New York, I stayed a few years, definitely a lot longer than I thought. All in all, I think it was 10 years.
Wow.
But I knew Houston was always home, so I always knew I was going to come back. It's just the good and the bad of New York is just there's constant opportunities. So I just kept saying yes. And when I got to the point where I felt like I had a vision and I had an idea of something that I wanted to create, not just for myself, but for Houston, I decided to come back home. And that was back in 2016.
Now,
so it's been a few years.
When you moved to New York, was that your first time experiencing New York or the Northeast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And leaving home, wow. Period. I was 17 and I'm like, okay, graduated high school. Yeah, it was total shock. Other than I had never been to another big city other than, visiting our family back in, my parents' countries, like Mexico and El Salvador, but I had never actually went and experienced a huge city alone, let alone New York. It's a whole thing on its own. So that was just an experience on itself, but I was very mentally prepared to just learn as much as I could.
I tell Darren, so I went to Johnson Wells in Providence, Rhode Island, and it was my first time living so far north. And I had been born in Houston and lived elsewhere, but had never kind of experienced the Northeastern, type of experience. And I told Darren, I said, literally, I get off the plane, little Texan boy coming down the escalator, and I catch eyes with someone, just a random person. And I say, how you doing? And I kid you not, the words out of his mouth were, the fuck you want? And I was like, oh. And I told my coach, my basketball coach, I said, yo, man, like, what's up with this? He's like, yo, don't do that. What are you doing?
Don't talk to people. Don't be friendly.
That was an abrupt welcoming.
Yeah, exactly. So that, and then like the worst winter I've ever experienced, sleeping in every pair of jeans I own and every jacket I had. I just,
yes.
The Northeast
even
kicked my ass.
visiting now, after I lived there for 10 years, like moving back and then going and visiting, like my bones hurt. Like I feel like everything hurts just being back in that cold. It's like, how did I do it so long? So much.
You answered half my question, which was how was the weather? So obviously we know it's cold, but how did you adjust to? I mean, you're from a big city, but how did you adjust to? And I visited New York City, and I love to visit New York City. I also love to leave New York City. It's a hustle and bustle, right? It never stops. But how do you adjust to that? I know you're in school most of the time, and you were saying yes to the jobs, but was it just crazy? What did you think about New York City?
Yes, it's just very crazy, and not a lot of time to think, right? It's just like you go. The subway kind of runs your life. You're on a schedule and you're running somewhere all the time. But I think like that's just such a big part of who I am now, because I think I was introduced to that so young, that I'm just like, I can't be still. 2, it's just that sense of urgency to get something done. You don't even know what you were doing half of the time, right? But it was just like, we couldn't waste a minute is what I felt like, because it was just so fast paced. And in the kitchen itself, you're in an army of cooks, right? So like, how do you even manage to stand out? How can you move up when there's just an army of people and everybody's trying to get somewhere, right? It's not like they're all just compliant, just being like, okay, I'm just going to be a cook forever. So it's definitely very cutthroat for sure. But I feel like you just got to absorb it as much as you can. And that lifestyle, it was fun and I learned a lot, but I knew it was, as much as I made it work and I really fully put myself into it, I knew that wasn't my end, It's like, I'm not just going to end up in New York. I'm definitely moving back home. I was like, Houston's home that whole time. My parents almost lost hope for like a second. They're like, she's never coming back. But no, I knew Houston was always home. And
as a
very excited to be back.
As a young lady, right, going off to this big city, and you're a sponge, as you said, you sort of learned how to absorb it, and you didn't have time to think. You think that's a strong attribute that you have now in the kitchen? Because not that you're not thinking about what you're doing, but it's almost a motion that you've been programmed to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now, well, one, I came back home with an idea and more of a concept, right? But now turning into a business owner, it's just, I can't really think about the technicalities of cooking anymore. I have to grow this brand. It's just like, it's more or less like that was the really fun part of me, just learning how to cook and learning how to think quick on my feet and go with emotion and learn that. And then now it's just like, I'm learning something new, specifically now in this time that we're in, something new every day. It's like, how can we turn it? How can we stitch this? But that, like I said, that kind of was engraved in me because I was so young and I put myself in that situation of just being in New York, that it's just like, okay, we gotta be moving, we gotta be working, we gotta start working on ideas. If anything pops into my mind, I'm gonna bring it to life. If it's gonna work, who knows? We just hope. And then if it doesn't, okay, we scrap it, go on to the next thing. So I mean, I feel like it's really big part of who I am now. And my brand, just how much it has. It's like, I still see it as a baby, but I know when I see everything going on, it's just like, okay, it is really growing, and it is a brand in its own, which I'm very proud of.
Right.
So what was there was a restaurant, there was Spice Market, and then there was
Yeah.
another one called Kin Shop, and that was a concept opened by Chef Harold, and I think he was a top chef contestant. So is this all just
Yes.
like Hollywood chefs, like connections
Hey.
or something? Is that...
No. Yeah, I mean, Chef Harold is a very fun kitchen. It was every kind of job that I worked in. Spice Market was my first like line cook, and that was a 300-seat restaurant.
Wow.
And we did covers like no one's business. The line was at least 15 cooks every night. So it was a machine, right? So here's like learning the motions. Yeah. Absolutely. So after that, going to Kin Shop, it was more of, okay, let me work somewhere where it's more of the idea that I want eventually. I want a smaller 50-seat restaurant where it's chef driven, and the chef is there every night.
Some of your creativity, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I can, at Spice Market, I mean, to get something on the menu, it would have to be okay by the executive Sue, then the executive, then corporate, then John George. Like, it was just so much. Again, it helped me a lot, but I was just like, okay, this is not, and I don't envision myself having a 300-seat restaurant. You know what I mean? Right. So it wasn't, it was a learning experience, but it wasn't in line with what I had envisioned. So I was just like, okay, let me get something smaller where I can learn a lot more and work next to the chef as well.
So let me ask you this. For all those aspiring chefs, regardless, female, male, whatever, do you recommend that they go through that learning period, that uncomfortableness, that this really sucks type of mentality, just so they can develop some thick skin? Or should they all just become Food Network stars?
No. I think it's definitely putting in the time. I'm very a person of process. Yeah. And I love my process, and I appreciate the process. I love what I'm doing. So I know that working hard and working through all of that will eventually get me to the place that I have envisioned. So I want to put in the time, and I want to earn it, because once I get there to whatever it is, I know myself that I put everything I could, and I worked my butt off to earn it. So I mean, I think it's definitely something that you should experience for sure. Especially if you want to get into the restaurant industry. I mean, it's just so hard. Even with everything that's going on now, it's just very, like, passion has to be key, because it's just so much work that goes into it. And then having that experience, I mean, of course you have a tough skin. You gotta put it up, and you gotta put in the work and just put your head down and just go. Sure. Because eventually, you get there, and you get to the place where you get to showcase whatever you had in your mind and whatnot. Yeah. As well as just, I feel like, how do I put it? My brain goes from like English to Spanish. I'm just like, how do I?
Just get that, whatever you want to say.
How do I get it out? I'll come back to me, I guess. I don't know what I was trying to say something. It was like.
That's okay. When I think of the up and coming students who want to be in the kitchen, who want to be a chef, right? There's so many attractive qualities. And some of that is, hey, I'm going to get a quarter sleeve. Hey, I'm going to get a full sleeve. I'm going to grow my hair out. I'm going to dye my hair.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Right? All those things are easily attained, right? All those not tangibles, all those cosmetic things can be done like this.
Yeah.
But what you cannot earn, which shows the heart of who you are, is putting in the sweat and the time, putting in being talked to and told what to do, being told, no, you're not going to be in that position tonight. You're going to be in this position tonight because so-and-so called in sick because they were out drinking all night. I guess what I'm really leading to is, you're still so young, right? But you've earned so much respect. And the message I'm trying to get to those who want to be in the industry, they need to understand what the reality is and the sacrifices are to attain greatness, or to attain the level of creativity, because you've already put in the hours of
Mm-hmm.
peeling potatoes, of doing whatever, right?
Yeah.
All the grunt work, right? Hey, here's
Yeah.
4 buckets of potatoes. Let me know when you're done. I got 6 more for you, right?
Yeah.
So my point is, as we sit and talk to someone like you who has that experience, who is well respected, and who still
Mm-hmm.
has so much to do, you've still spent a lifetime in the culinary world,
Mm-hmm.
hours upon hours. And I want kids to understand that. Would you say that's true? You really got to want to be in the business.
Yeah, you gotta really want to be in the business. Like I said, in New York, I mean, when I was executive sous, I mean, I was doing like 80-hour weeks, you know, like that's that's equivalent of two normal work weeks in
Yes.
1 week.
Yeah.
So it's just like you gotta really, really want it, as well as, putting yourself in the situations. I just remembered I was trying to say is that, the kitchen is tough, is not the greatest situation at some times, but as well as like living through it and just putting your head down and saying okay and just going with it. Once you get to the point where you can be the change and you're the one that knows how to, you're executing the kitchen and you're running the kitchen. Because I mean, as a woman in the kitchen, like I was in some crazy situations and really uncomfortable situations, but I did what I could with the situation. I got through it, and now I have the ability to be the change in my kitchen,
Right.
and make the difference. And whoever's coming out and being new and starting a kitchen, like they're having a completely different vision than when I experienced, right? But still putting in the work, of course. But just I feel like I'm very grateful for that, for sure. To be able to have the opportunity to make a change, because the industry is rough.
Do you think that some of this, though, it's kind of like, greatest basketball players or the greatest artists kind of come through like harder times and things like that New York experience, for those outside of the industry is very different than the Houston experience. Houston has had a couple chefs that are kind of, that old school French, but do you feel like it's kind of like you can't replicate that, but you kind of need to put like cooks and young cooks through that type of situation so that they can earn, the chops to be able to do what's required for the next level?
Yes, I mean, I definitely. But I think really it's key for them to just really want to, really love this, really love to cook, really want to have, be in this industry, because the rest you can learn. And like you said, we have to be put in that situation to learn from it. But there's some situations that some people shouldn't.
Right.
It's just like, okay, we're gonna just scratch that. But even then, like even with a change and whatnot, like a kitchen, it's just there's so much passion that it's other like you can easily blow up, or there's just so many emotions because it's just it's fast paced. It's kind of tangible, you're feeling, because you're putting all this work into a dish, and then you put it out, and then it's up to whoever to either enjoy or absolutely hate it, right? So that definitely, like now I'm just like, okay, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, it's totally fine.
Right.
But you gotta work,
Yeah.
a certain time and put in the work to get to that point where you're just like, I don't care. Because I know I'm doing my work, and and most of the people enjoy it. It's not like I don't care. I do care, but there's some people that are just out to just, they're not having a good day, and then that just completely changes how they had the experience, even if it has nothing to do with you. So it's kind of that tough skin part comes right in.
It could be
sure.
outside circumstances, right?
Yeah, I couldn't
work. And that's normal.
like,
I think that's totally normal. I think that happens in every industry because we're all human beings, right? So
we
try to get to work and focus, but technology doesn't allow us to focus all the time. We have phones, we have all these things, these outside distractions. So I think it magnifies that we're human, right? So and it does happen.
Yeah.
Well, so we talked about some of the hard things about being in the kitchen. Let's talk about some of the good things. What did you enjoy, what did you find fulfillment in that continued to fuel you to become better and better at becoming a chef?
I feel like it was just, again, like I said earlier, like I'm a person of process, and I'm just like, okay, if it's coming towards me, it's the good, the bad, whatever, I'm gonna roll with it because this is part of my journey, and I have to accept it and go with it. So I feel like that a lot of it helped me be a lot more lighthearted on things.
Yeah.
As well as being like true to myself. Like I really enjoy cooking. I really enjoy making someone's day with one dish. Like it really boils down to that for most chefs. It's just like we can literally spend all this time on this one dish and it could really make someone's day.
Right.
As well as just kind of showcasing your vision. It all starts in your head, and then you have this idea and you put this together, and then you see it come to life. Like I think that's what I really, really enjoy.
So that creative process. Yeah.
The creative process. I've always been very, very like creative, artsy and whatnot.
Yeah.
It was just kind of finding what form I would end up doing. And it's just kind of, I've always loved cooking and helping my family out when I was younger. So once it came time to like choosing my career, it kind of just like, it made sense that that's something I wanted to do.
So you picked the medium, right, which was food, right? So
yeah.
What's your favorite food to cook? When you're cooking, what do you like to cook?
I love cooking the food I cook at the restaurant. Like I love Southeast Asian food.
Okay.
It's not just like something I do at work and then go home and then cook something, and just go home and cook Mexican food. Right. Because I am Mexican and Salvadorian.
What? You're Mexican?
Yeah. I know. And we're just like, oh, okay. It's funny now when we were at Politan, people would be like, oh, like Kim, this food's amazing, all of it. So like, who's Chef Evelyn? And I'm like, me. That's me. Yeah. They're like, oh, okay. I was like, unexpected, huh? But I really, really enjoy this food. I enjoy eating it, creating it. And thankfully through, all the opportunities I had in New York, I was also very grateful to be able to go overseas and go and stage in Thailand and travel through Vietnam and Singapore and Malaysia and India and China, the Philippines. So I was like, through all that, I feel like as a cook, I was just like, work, save some money, very little because it's very expensive in New York. But work, and then I would take a break, travel, come back, get my butt kicked again, work, then take a break, travel, come back. So that was like my thing too. Like that definitely helped me. Again, I guess it's like my vision of like, this is not going to be forever. I'm not going to be in New York forever. So just learn as much as you can. And when I had the opportunity, go into Asia, because it was a cuisine I was cooking and that I enjoyed cooking and eating, but I really had to, for me personally, I was like, I really have to understand the culture to better understand the food, and then to better be able to put out my version of it, or what I'm doing now. Like it's not very, my whole thing is Southeast Asian inspired, because I just take inspiration of Southeast Asia, period. Whatever like seasoning or technique that I saw or enjoy eating, I put into play, and then just kind of mix in local ingredients and just kind of do my twist on it. It's not very traditional whatsoever. But I felt like I really had to put in the time in that as well. Like really learn why the reason curry is the way curry is, to be able to interpret it in my own way.
No, I think having the foundation of intelligence and knowledge around a certain regional cuisine or international cuisine still gives you credibility, even though you put your own twist on it, right? So if it's a fusion, just a twist or something else, I think that still adds a lot of credibility to what you're doing. I think you've done a good job of that.
Thank you.
What do you think, Chef, separates someone from taking inspiration from somewhere, and then the difference between that and someone who's just trying to infuse it, and get that word Asian infusion or something on it?
I know. I mean, it's just that word fusion. It's a headache. I feel like, because to me, fusion is just bringing two cuisines together, right? It's like Korean taco, or it's just like bringing two things, like two completely different things together. For me, that's why like what I push for is just being like inspired. Like that's my word, not fusion, inspired. Because it's taking it kind of not even upscaling it. It's just trying to showcase Southeast Asian food to our city as more than just pad thai, as more as just stir-fried noodles and then red curry, green curry. And then that's like pretty much what the normal Thai restaurant menu just like consists of, right? And then just being able to showcase is like really, this is the reason why it's cooked this way. These are the techniques. So if I change the ingredients, it's still in essence the same within the same cuisine, because although the ingredients are different, because we can't really replicate Southeast Asian food because we don't have the same product. Like I feel like that's why it's so good over there. Right. Because I mean it's just so fresh, right? Like the produce they grow there, we can't grow here, at least not all of it. And even then, it kind of changes flavor over here if we do get to grow it over here. So yeah, I feel like it's more of making sure you understand it correctly. Of just like, to me, Southeast Asian boils to, apart from how important the ingredients are, it's a balance of flavor, and that's the essence. What I do to my food, I'm like, as long as it's balanced in flavor, that's perfect for me. We can do whatever it is, as long as it's balanced.
So that being said, the brisket ramen, is that infusion? Is that inspired? I saw that. That looked damn good. Yeah. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah. So that that one is fusion, because I'm taking Texas style brisket and I'm taking Japanese ramen, and I'm making the ramen like it's a 16-hour broth. Like nice. I'm doing the broth the right way, and then we just top it off with some brisket because it's amazing. And it smells like crazy.
It does, and it's been nice to see that infusion of that even on the barbecue world. I mean, like Koi barbecue kind of being the most pronounced one to be doing the brisket and the pandan curry, and using
delicious. I've tried it.
Incredible. And now I'm seeing it copied here and there, and like other places. I'm wait a second, so,
yeah.
Not a shout out.
Yeah, when I had their curry, I was honestly very happy with the curry, because I love curry, and I'm known for my curries. So I was just, when I tried it, I was like, oh, okay, this is really good. I'm like the pickiest person with curry, and I can taste when it's just like taste from the can, And she's like, yeah, well, it's not, you didn't do it all the way, but okay. But theirs was very, very good. And then especially with the smoked meat, which I do a little bit of with Eker, because I love them. And I think their smoked meats are amazing. So I try to do a lot of introduction between like my Thai smoked brisket fusion thing. Because like right now we have a smoked chicken curry, cow soy, which is like a northern Thai style curry, and it's normally served with chicken. So I like reached out to Lance. I'm like, so can you smoke chicken for me? He's like, sure. But now he's doing more chicken. But before he wasn't doing chicken, so he was just like, well, okay, I'll do it for you, but what are you doing with it? Like, what? I was just like, no, well, you'll see. And it's so good. I knew, like, it's such a good dish on its own, but it's normally just like simmered chicken on the bone. And I was just like, I know if we smoke it, it's going to be so much better. It just adds that little smoky, toasty flavor. And I was like, I know this, we can really make this dish shine. And then the brisket ramen came about, all of this COVID stuff, and him having extra brisket like ends and stuff. And then he's like, I used to just chop it over fries, but now we don't have the bars to go to. So now I just have all this scrap. But I mean, it was amazing brisket. I was like, this is not scrap. I like scrap. Yeah. All these like extra like random end pieces. And I was like, you know what? Let me do something with them and be able to help you out, get rid of some stuff, and then, cross promote each other. And I was starting the kit. So then I ended up doing the ramen, brisket ramen. It's one of the most selling. Now he has to like smoke whole briskets for me. He's like, this just be scraps. I was like, yeah, now I need brisket.
A win-win.
Yeah.
Huge win-win. For listeners and viewers of the podcast, I apologize. I had to hop off twice. I don't know if they fed my son freaking Indian food at school or something, but it was two big emergencies. So my fault on helping out. So if I repeat a question, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. Darren's shaking his head. He's like, why the hell do you talk like this, Connor, on my podcast? So Chef, the hop from even just staging in different places where it's like shift is done, you turn it off, you go home, or you just kind of work the job, clock out, you're set and done, to the decanter pop-up and bar. What was kind of the biggest change from what you were doing before to when you started that? Because you were doing pop-ups before that, correct?
Yeah, I was just full on pop-ups. It was a big change. For once, I didn't have to load up my truck all the time. When I say full on pop-ups, I used to do 3 to 4 pop-ups a week.
Wow.
So I was I was just all over town, and I did that for almost 2.5 years. So when Decatur came about, Adam reached out and he was just like, hey, so he always knew, he always knows that I wanted a restaurant, and we always had these conversations like, okay, so what are you doing? Like, you have such good food and you're out here at Axelrad, like, where are you going with this? Is this it, or what's up? And I was like, I eventually want to have my own restaurant, my own concept and all of this. So when the old Beaver space became available, he's like, so I want to do something, and I love your food, so I think this is a good thing that we could work together on. And then as well as does not showcase you, but be able to form some sort of platform, right, for up and coming chefs and whatnot. And I'm like, count me in. We had no idea what it was going to turn into. It was like, okay, it was like a pop-up inside a kitchen, and then we could maybe rotate and stuff. But it ended up being a full-on residency, and I was there for, I think, 8 months at Decatur.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself, I learned so much. Just so much. It was transition from pop-up to restaurant. So now I have to have hiring a crew, and now we're working. We started off with sit-down dinners for 30 each night. And that we did that in the beginning because it was just going to be a short time, right? I was just going to do it for 3 months, and I was just going to do that every weekend. And the idea was, because I'm crazy, 1, 2, because I was full of ideas. I was cranking out a new menu every week.
Mm-hmm.
It was 5 courses every week for 3 months. And it was family style, and it was a lot of an experience. I would come out every course, not only explain the reason why I created the dish, but talk about where, what everything's sourced from, and kind of just showcase the story of the food and how it came together. As well as, face to face with the customers and people that wanted to know more about my food and myself. So it was an amazing experience. I wasn't also not that high end version. I don't feel like that I am. So being able to put out a course dinner and really put together a whole dinner, that's a whole different thing. So it's really working the creative muscle. I had all these dishes, right? But how do we make it make sense? Right? How does it make a story and make sense and be an experience for the guests? So that in itself was really, really amazing. And I was able to put a lot of dishes and really prepare me for Politan Now, because I really got to drill down and get together all those recipes that people really, really enjoyed, and refine them and be able to showcase them here in a lot smaller menu, a lot more put together, a lot more thoughtful menu. Because I was cranking out, menus and recipes every week. Which was gonna fine, but then all of a sudden it just started extending. I was like, okay, guys, I'm gonna lose it. I was like, I'm very creative, but okay, it's been 3 months, But every time Adam came about, okay, so what if we stay a little bit longer? What if we do this? And then both of us learned a lot, in the sense of not just the food, but running a business and how, marketing, staffing, training, just all of that, which I had experience, but not, I had experience running someone else's concept, now it was experience of creating my concept and training correctly and how important that is, as well as marketing. So I learned so much.
Now, was the staff under your company or was it under the decanter company?
Kitchen was my staff. Front of the house was Decatur.
So you actually employed your staff members then?
Yeah. So
wow.
Like the full kitchen was my staff.
Wow.
So I had 3 cooks and I had 2 dishwashers in prep. So
when things were rocking and rolling over there, was there input from upper management as far as what you could do on the menu? Because I'm trying to think of it as like someone who's a restaurateur who brings on a chef and is like, maybe after 3 months is saying, hey, maybe we need to start doing truffle fries and burgers or something like that. Or was it pretty hands off or something along those lines, if you can talk about it?
I mean, it was a little bit of both, because, they were trying to push the bar program, which is where Adam's more aspect of, because he's, he comes from Axelrad and he had a different vision for the bar. So there was things where we just worked on together. Like I did create a bar menu, just for Decatur, and it was my flavors, but it was burgers, it was wings, it was fries, to kind of appeal to that too. Like if you didn't want to come in for a 5-course dinner,
sure,
you just want to have a drink, there was bar food. So we kind of worked on that together. It was just, but for the most part, it was mostly just like free range, like
nice,
have fun, which is great. Most of the stress was within myself, right? Like trying to be creative and just constantly push myself. That was most of the stress was from me than really management.
So where do you find the motivation and where do you find the inspiration to continue to push yourself outside of a comfort zone in terms of creativity?
I get bored really fast. For one, I'm just like, okay, I got the hang of it, now I want something different. For one, and two, I'm just, like I said, I just thoroughly, and my parents, especially my mom, she's just like, it's because she's obsessed. It's her thing. And to a certain extent I am, because I just enjoy the creativity aspect of it. I enjoy that it's food, that I enjoy eating, that it brings people together, that, well, not currently, right? But because most of my food is family style. So I think like it all just really represents me as a person, just being creative, how important my family is, and being able to create that for someone else. It just really, it's enough of a motive for me to keep going.
So if you're constantly driven, and when I say I'm bored easily, that means I'm basically self-diagnosed with ADD. But what's the goal? Have you sat down long enough to say, okay, I've accomplished A, B, C, and D, and now I need to go after, right, F, H, G, H, all the way to Z. What's the goal? What's the long end for you where you're like, kick your feet up, exhale, smoke a big cigar, and have some good bourbon?
Oh, that's going to be a minute. That's going to be a while.
It's part of the process, though. That's okay.
It's part of the process, yeah. I mean, I want so much.
I mean,
but I'm willing to put in the work.
Beard award? Is it going to the White House? What is it? It's got to be something.
I mean, I want a few restaurants, to be honest. And I want a local chef-driven store.
Nice.
I want 2 restaurants. I want a bar. See, so I mean, when am I going to be finished? I'm currently already put into play my whole condiment line. I want to be in H-E-B. I want that line in H-E-B. I want that line all over. And then when I get there, I'm pretty sure I'm going to want something else.
Yeah. It's nice to get inside the head of someone who continues to be inspired to be successful And knowing that bar always moves, it's it's cool to see some of the vision of what you're coming up with. And I think, you mentioned retail, you mentioned a bar, you mentioned a restaurant. I mean, there's no telling. The sky's the limit for you. We all know that. But at some point, you have to pull back on the reins and go, you know what? I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm good right now,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But currently, I'm like, let's go. Let's do this. I also, I don't know, man. I just, like I said, I think it just boils down for me, like thoroughly enjoying this. So although I work a lot and I put a lot of work into this brand and into my food, am I really working? Like, it's such a cliche, right? Like, oh, when you love what you do, you're not work, but it's real when you truly fulfilled by what you do.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm going to work. I know. I mean, even my friends are just like, where do you get the energy from? Like, I'm just like, I just really enjoy it. And it not for one bit feels like work. And I'm just constantly creating something.
I feel like, and I believe in the research I've done and the short time we've talked with each other, I believe that you're a role model for other women chefs and other women who want to come into the industry, right, and gain some success. On that note, what would today's Chef Evelyn tell Evelyn 15 years ago? What advice, what insight, what perspective would you give someone who's just coming into that grind so that it would be either easier or clearer or a less bumpy road than you had to go through? Not to take away from the hardship, they're going to happen.
Yeah, they have to go through that.
What would you tell a younger you 15 years ago?
To not stop. I mean, just keep going. Because it does not get any easier, but once you start seeing things come together and opportunity turns into another opportunity, turns into another opportunity, like that is so fulfilling. Yeah. So when you feel like you're in the hole and you're just working every day and you're in and out, in and out, in and out, just know that it's temporary. It's not forever, and that you're working towards your goal. So you just got to keep going.
Gotcha.
And enjoy the process. Just enjoy it.
We used to say embrace the suck.
Right.
It's going to suck. Right? So you might as well just embrace it, right?
Yeah, might as well just embrace it. Exactly. just keep going. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, everybody goes through some hardship and in the rough of it, but even the not so fun parts, it's always just temporary.
Yeah.
Because you're working towards something. So it eventually gets a little bit easier, but then you get there and then you're like, oh, I want something else. And I keep going.
So, Chef, right now, Politan Row is temporarily closed just with the new regulations and things like that. I know you've got your meal kits. You had something, Kamayan to go? Say that again?
Kamayan.
I'm going to edit this podcast so it makes it sound like I said it correctly,
like
but I'm
you said it correctly.
Kamayan. Could you explain that for me?
Yeah, so it's a very traditional festive feast from the Philippines. Normally done, again, it all goes down to like food and family, most important things for me. You just come together on a table. It's traditionally wrapped in banana leaf. All the food goes on the table, and then you eat with your hands. And you just have at it. I mean, it's like full-on roast pigs, whole fish, vegetables, rice, like all the fixings all on the table. So we were actually doing that here at Politan once a month. And before COVID, we were sold out 2 months in advance. Like, it was a really popular thing. And it was such a show, like not just for my stand, but just for anybody that walked into Politan. Just a full table of 16 seats, completely wrapped in banana, and all the food. I mean, my showstopper was my pork heads from Whitehurst Farms that we would braise and then deep fry. And it would just be all chicharron. And then I would go into your table and then just go and get it started for you. It was beautiful. It was magical.
Y'all, whoever's
Um,
just listening to this podcast, go watch this YouTube
like, what?
clip at this mark, because the face she made when she pulled it apart, you
I was
knew.
just
She's
like
like, I got
so
you.
satisfied.
I've won
Yeah.
everybody at this table. Yeah, I got you. This is
It
my
was the
house.
funnest part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
breaking apart that pig head. So so that was such an experience, and it was something that was just so much fun for me. Um, so with everything going on, I was just like, I still can't let go of that. I'm like, oh, we were like doing so well. Like I said, sold out in months in advance, and it all just came to an abrupt end. So I couldn't let go of that. And in my brain this whole time, I'm like, so how do I recreate this? Or how do I have this experience at the customer's home, even without me? But like, how do I constantly put it out there? Because at the end of the day, yeah, there's so much crap going on, but there's always a reason to celebrate something. Just being alive it's a celebration on its own. So to me, I'm like, I have to put this celebratory dinner feast out there. And what I came up with was that it's either for 2 or for 4, and you order online before Thursdays. It gets delivered on Saturdays, and I give you a banana leaf, like not too big, this big. It comes with 6 different savory dishes. Yeah, it comes with 6 dishes, and then with my new collaboration with the dough cone on our ice cream pints, so it comes with an ice cream pint as well. And then everything's ready to go. You just unravel you put together your banana leaf, and then you just plate everything on top, and then just half at it. And I'm like, there you go, just feast.
And this is dropped off at
So
someone's door, or?
It just dropped off at your door. We text you when it's en route. Once it's there, you kind of just click windows from 5 to 6 or 6 to 7 kind of delivery, just because we're still kind of gauging that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm pretty accurate as far as it goes, but we do leave like an hour window because we wanted to just make sure it's really, really hot and it goes straight to your house.
Gotcha.
And you're getting it to experience fully and correctly.
Now, I live out in the Katy area, so I don't think you're going out this far to drop one of those off.
A little far.
A little.
We do our kits that far. Ready to eat food just because it won't be there in temperature. Although we travel with like camera boxes and everything, it's just not going to be the same. Mm-hmm. But our kits, we go everywhere. I mean, I've been Humble, Spring, literally everywhere, which is cool because I'm like learning all these parts of Houston now.
Now there's also like you talked about your condiments, your ice cream, frozen dumplings, along with us with 0 Point Organics. You're in Central City Co-op, which is awesome.
Yay!
You've beat me to the punch on some sauces in there, so I'm like, oh dang it! No, I'm just messing with you. So, but it's great.
Yeah, I mean, once they gave me the go, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go in and just I'm like, Jessica, how about this? She's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, great. Here you go. Put it on there. Here's some pictures. Here's the description. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, that was I knew I wanted to. That was like right in the beginning where I was just like, okay, I'm not doing anything. I'm just working on ideas. How, we were close for like a month, I think, already. And I mean, I did take the break in the beginning. I did take the break, took the time because I was working every day and I lived here. And then after the month, I was just like, okay, so this is not going to end anytime soon. So how do we keep this brand alive, And, I was contacted, or I contacted Jessica from Central City Co-op through Papalo in Tláhuac. Right. They connected the dots. So I was like, yes, thank you. I was doing the kits. She's like, I don't know if it'll work for that, but just reach out and all this stuff. And I'm like, I have 1,010 ideas. You give me a go. I'm gonna make it work. So I had already done like the condiments. I had tried to do the condiment line while I was doing pop-ups like 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it worked, but I was just creating a little bit at a time, just like a couple sauces here and there. And the barbecue sauce I've had for forever, because it's in our barbecue brisket roti, and that thing I could never get rid of. People will freak out. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start jarring that. I'm gonna start jarring our chili oil that we put on like most of our curries. And then now it's 6 condiments. My line has grown to 6. And we also just joined Local Foods is carrying our sauces now as well. So I'm like, yay.
That's awesome. And for those who don't know, Central City Co-op is like a CSA where it's kind of like they work with local farmers, local chefs, kind of like bring it all in on like Tuesday. They sell on Wednesdays and Saturdays for like pickups. You just kind of go online. You can a la carte some things, and then you can just buy like these, packages of fresh produce and so forth. So it's a wonderful outlet. And like I tell other chefs and other restaurateurs, it's a great way to find dollars and cents outside of your 4 walls, and that's going to be the model moving forward quite a bit.
I think that was my whole, like, okay, I took the first month, I was just like, okay, I'm just taking the break, enjoying my family, I'm enjoying staying home, my dog, I'm like, okay, we gotta take it in, and just, accept it as it is. We gotta close, we gotta be safe. And then after that, it was just like, okay, so like, how do I have to think beyond a restaurant. I'm not a restaurant now. How do I reach out to new customers, my regular customers? How do they, how do we not forget kin, and how do we keep going? Because being a restaurant is not an option right now. Like, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, being a restaurant was so easy. Right? Before COVID, it was just so easy. And now it's just like, whoa, we gotta completely turn it around. And I mean, now I do heat and eat curries and meal kits, and I am doing this kamaya now that it is hot food, but before that I was just doing cold stuff, like how you got to finish it cooking at your house. You got to heat it up, you got to sear it. Here's some sauces. I'm starting a spice line. Here's the ice cream. So you're just like, okay, I just gotta completely not think like a restaurant anymore. Right. If I want to keep kin going. To me, it was just like, it's my baby. I gotta keep it going. Like, I can't not. So I was just like, I gotta keep going, and just ideas are coming up, and I put them to play. I mean, thankfully I have the platform at Central City Market, which has been so helpful. And then also, I didn't know anything about websites before, but now somewhat of an expert. Just, had to like create. I didn't have a selling platform on my website before. So it was just pictures and menus, so pretty. And now it's just like, okay, how do I turn it into a selling platform? Like, people can order from it, and I get, how do I do that? And that was just like a day of just like 8 hours straight trying to figure it out, and like YouTube a lot of videos. And I was like, we need to make this website work, to be, and to me, because a lot of people were doing just like turn it into the Square, which we carry Square, we use the Square system, or like Toast, but like, to me, it wasn't very appealing to the eye. I'm like, okay, so my service and my spiel is gone. Like, right, I can't talk to you anymore. I can't service you. I can't greet you with my smile. Like, all of that is gone. So like, how do I make the customer understand the dish and its full potential, right? Like, I can, describe everything, which as a chef, we describe everything, like garnished with a crisp of this and that, right? We're really good at that part. But like, how does it, like, visually, how can I grab a customer and, through a website without me talking to you anymore? So it was really important for me to create my website in the sense of just like, you want to eat what's in front of you, right? Like, you want to visually see a beautiful plate in front of you. So that's the way I'll be able to reach you for who knows when, right? Like, that's it. So it took a long time trying to create that website, but I'm very proud of it now, and the way it's set up. But it took no sleep for a couple of days and trying to figure that out. But I knew that was part of it, because service was essentially gone.
So you said earlier, you had to find out where you were going to be creative, and that ended up being food. And because of the COVID, your new creative outlet was the website. Right? So,
yeah. Oh my God. It was really, it was fun, but it was just like, it's a new challenge, right? Like, I got to figure it out. I got to, make it work correctly, which, I mean, there's still things that go here up in there, but it's a lot easier now, a few months in. But at first it was just like, okay, like how I don't know anything about websites, you know, like I don't as well as marketing. Like I've always been really good about, like, because we just have our phones on our hand, right? Like posting as we go. But now like actually making thoughtful posts, like try to convey as much information as we can without making it boring, right? And without spilling you on a paragraph and they're like, okay, well, we just wanted to see a picture and that's it. But I'm not going to sell you on anything because you just keep going because there's too much information there. So it's just like, that's where I'm creatively being now. Just like, okay, how do I turn this website around? How do I use the platforms on social media that I have, which I've always been very active on, but just now like making it really thoughtful and very useful to my business.
Now it drives dollars, right? Instead of just being active on it, now that's to drive dollars. So
yeah, no, it's just like, no, I need you to buy this.
Please buy this now.
Right.
For sure.
Chef Evelyn, if you could give our listeners the website address and all of your social media so that they can follow your story, they can go on, they can support, they can see everything that you're doing, is the best place for information on the meal kits, the condiments, all of that, is the best place for that your website?
Yeah, our website is kin, which is KINHTX.com, as well as Instagram, which is kin _HTX, because someone took kin HTX. I don't even know why. So mine has a little underscore. But website is just like our ordering stuff, and it comes with a more description of everything. Social media, you really see like on, like if something new goes on, I'm really quick on Instagram and posting about it. Like we just joined Local Food, so we have a whole spiel on local foods products. So both those things are really where I'm focusing more on right now.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking so much time. I think we've talked for like an hour now, which is awesome. I just can't believe it goes by so fast. Thank you both for understanding when I had to step away for the little one and everything.
It's all good.
You were gone? I didn't know you were gone.
I know, right? No one listening to this podcast noticed.
He did great. He did great. Don't worry.
Darren did good. I'll take it.
Yeah. He kept it going.
Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you both being on this podcast. Darren, it's great to do a podcast with you again. Chef Evelyn, it was wonderful to hear your story and get to know you even more. I think Lance was 100% correct in saying, we had to have you on this podcast. So shout out to Lance.
No, thank you guys. Yes. Thank you. No, thank you. It's a pleasure. And whatever you guys need, I'm here. You just let me know.
Fried pig's head. I've already said it. There we go. Saying it right now.
Okay. Go look at that clip, guys. Go look at that clip. I was very, very fulfilled that day.
Thank you, Chef Evelyn. It's been awesome talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Perfect. To all our listeners, like and subscribe. 5 stars, 5 stars. We're out. The Cost of Goods Told podcast is made possible by the following sponsors. Criswell Culinary aims to create a new standard of unique, affordable hot sauces that satisfies the more developed cravings of today. Boerne brand Texas-style hot sauce is a boldly layered sauce with density and personality to proudly represent Texas. Go to boernebrand.com to find a retailer near you. That's Boerne, Boerne, brand.com. 0 Point Organics grows and supplies microgreens for over 30 major restaurants in the Houston area. Consistently perfect quality in flavor and appearance, their microgreens will be the best you or your customers have ever had every single time. Go to pointorganics.com.